Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning back in. Really appreciate you being here. Today, we're going to continue talking about experiences in the academy, moving on into week four. Week four, there wasn't a whole lot of classroom time. At that point, we'd pretty much covered all the academics that we really could. It was more focused at that point on the physical aspects of the job. We got more into handcuffing procedures, handcuffing a standing offender, a kneeling, a sitting one, different ways of approach. We spent a lot of time outside in the back at the range. We did all kinds of different tasks at the range. We would fire the different weapons, the revolver, rifle, shotgun. We were exposed to tear gas, also known as CS. We were trained in the use of our pepper spray. We had to go to different stages throughout the back of the academy, and I wish I could have a picture of it, but because we couldn't have cameras there in class, no cell phones on state property, had to stay in the car, there's not a whole lot of footage. And if there is, it's considered contraband. And usually any kind of content like that is taken down very quickly. So this is the best that I can do. But there would be different targets set up throughout the range. Some would be pictures of inmates, others inmates holding hostages, either a civilian or another corrections officer that they had grabbed onto. And then we would have to stand in front of those, give it commands, task directions, and when they didn't comply, we would have to draw our OC pepper spray, discharge the agent on it, and from there we had to walk forward, which meant you walked through the cloud of pepper spray that you had just sprayed, and it would get in your eyes, nose, mouth, skin would burn. It's to get you ready and exposed to it because you will be using it a lot at units. It's the go-to choice of weapons. There are no firearms, no batons. OC pepper spray is the go-to. The highlight of week four and the main focus of this video is our unit tour. One of the things that you can expect when going through the TDCJ Academy is unit tours. You go to different kinds of prisons and take a tour of the unit and act under the supervision of certified corrections officers as a corrections officer. I don't know how many tours there are for the classes. I don't know if there's a minimum or a maximum for the curriculum. For my particular class, there were two. We took a tour of the Holiday Unit, affectionately known as the Holiday Inn, and we took a tour of the Ellis Unit. Ellis Unit was high security. That was where your max offenders went. The Holiday Unit was a receiving unit for individuals that were coming from the county jail to state. This was where they first came, and it determined their classification level. Classification meaning what type of offender is this? What are their charges? What is their background? What is their history? Where do they need to be housed that could best provide for them and provide the most safety for TDCJ employees? So this is one of the units that helped determine that. So instead of going to the academy that morning, we were told to report to the Holiday Unit. We had the directions and everything, drive up in the parking lot. Everybody met outside. One of the instructors, Sergeant Hatcher, I believe his name was it Hatcher? It might have been Hatcher. Anyway, one of the instructor sergeants met up with us and we formed up, we marched in, and outside the area is just fence line. And when you go through the fence line, there was the one main building that we went into, and from there we filed in. We had to get patted down. That's untuck your shirt, take your belt off, boots off, pull your pockets out. I explained the pat down procedure in a previous video. We all had to go through that, and from there we went in to the unit. Now I can't particularly paint the best picture here with words. You can Google Earth what the Holiday Unit looks like. It's a lot of long, what we call shotgun buildings, just long buildings. You walk in and it's doors on both sides as you're going down. I don't know why I just did my hand like that. You can't see what I'm talking about. But picture just a long concrete pathway, buildings on both sides, and when you went in them, that was where the offenders were housed. Our job for this particular area was to be exposed to the inmates, listen to what the inmates would have to say to us, look at the staff, look at some of the grizzled workers. Usually the officers that worked at the receiving units, they had worked their way up to these units. They started off in maximum security, they had cut their teeth, put their time in. This was, I don't want to say a relaxing tour, but a little bit less stressful of a unit than maximum security. So the first thing we did once we got in, we went to the training room, all of us sat down, and the first thing I noticed was how hot it was in this place. You would swear that they had the freaking heater on in here. No air circulation, nothing. This was I started in April, May. This was the middle of May. Sun beating down on these metal concrete buildings. I can't describe how hot it is in these buildings. It's just stagnant air. And you've got your uniform on, it's long sleeves, pressed, starched, buttoned all the way up to the top, just no circulation. And we're sitting in this room, and a major comes in to brief us. Remember, we talked about our paramilitary structure. Majors wore the gold oak leaves. They were typically below the assistant warden. Major came in and introduced himself, briefed us on what we were going to be doing. We were going to take a walk around tour with a couple of the corrections officers. We were going to go to an area where offenders had just been received from the county jails, and then we were going to go into one of the dorms that was going to be cleared out of inmates, and we were going to shake it down. Shakedown is where we search for any kind of contraband and remove it from the areas. So after we got done with his brief, we all got up, filed outside, and we're walking down this long concrete area. No covering, no nothing. Fully exposed to sun, rain, all that. Offenders were walking up alongside the buildings, and you can't really see very well, but they had to have their hands behind their back anywhere they walked around the units. So we're thinking, this is a well-behaved area. Nothing to this. All right, we got it. I don't remember how many of us there were in class, especially because they broke us up into groups. We were broken up into squads of 20. And from there, one of the receiving sergeants took us into the ODR, the officer's dining room. We got some water, hydrated a little bit, took a look around the area. He explained unit procedures. And then from there, we went into one of the dorms. The offenders had all been cleared out of the area, and we were told, search for anything. Anything that we find that's contraband, look back to your offender handbook, what you can and can't have, and just search the area. The air in that building, it just didn't move. I can't stress enough how hot it was in this building. You walk in, and it was just insta sweat. The uniforms didn't breathe, and go. So we go in, and some of the cadets are going in where the offenders live. They're searching their mattresses, searching the cells, searching the shower, the bathroom areas. I predominantly stuck to the day room area. In the day room, it would have a table, and at the table would be 4 round seats. It's very institutionalized and very common amongst prisons, military, just bolted down seats on a table. And you would have to get up under, and there was nothing on top of the table or the chairs, obviously. You had to get up underneath and run your hand around the lip of the chair. You had to be careful when doing that to make sure that there wasn't any razor blades or anything stuck to it. What made it even worse, you had to do this search with rubber gloves on. My rubber gloves were just full of sweat. So we searched the area down. A lot of contraband was found. The unit really liked when cadets would come in and do this because it gave the COs a break. 1 CO to a pod per 84 inmates. Now we've got 20. We weren't COs yet, we were cadets. Now we've got 20 coming in to search these buildings. It gave them a break, and we could really find a lot of contraband. The upside to it, yes, we found contraband. The downside to it, yes, a lot of stuff was thrown away that offenders were allowed to have. Food, mail, magazines, things that they were actually authorized. All of it was bagged up and brought out of the buildings. And as we were leaving, the offenders filed back in, and they would mutter things under their breath, mumble, grumble. And once they got back in the building, as we were standing outside getting ready to move on, you could hear yelling and shouting going on. I didn't know it at the time, but that was the inmates protesting that we had thrown away things that they were actually authorized. And I can only imagine what it was like for the corrections officer that had to deal with that pod after we had left. It almost seems like we had caused more harm than good, but when you're new, you don't know. The next thing we went into the receiving area. This is where offenders that had just been brought in from county jail were basically put in a cage. It was a fenced-in cage. They were housed in there. We were brought in, and a sergeant started giving us a brief about how unit procedures worked. And while she was talking, the offenders were just going absolutely nuts. They were climbing the cage, yelling at us, banging. Anytime we focused on them, she would say, hey, eyes on me, eyes on me. She didn't make the least amount of effort, none whatsoever, to quiet these inmates down. We couldn't even hear what she was saying while they're just absolutely going off. And I'm standing there going, we have no control in this room whatsoever. What are we even supposed to be listening to here? I really think that it didn't matter what she was saying. I almost want to think that the inmates were coached to do this. I could be wrong, because I've seen how offenders go, and I'd like to think that they were coached to do this, and this was a reality check. Okay? I didn't know this at the time. This was your reality check for, is this really what I want to do? Not only was the unit tour to teach you about procedures in the building, but it was also to check, is this really what I want to do? Is this what I can handle? At the end of the unit tour, we were done for the day, go back to the barracks. The rest of the week was more range, more classroom time. One of the things I also noticed, there were far fewer corrections officers. I don't know the exact number. I didn't keep count. I just remember seeing faces that you didn't see. Faces that you did see, you didn't see anymore. Some of them, I guess, had decided that it wasn't for them. The end of week 4 on Friday, that was when we had done our unit tour at the Ellis unit. I'm not going to make this video any longer. The next video that we lead up to will be our Ellis unit tour. I'm going to cover ad seg, eating in the ODR, and also our first paychecks. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for taking your time to spend with me. If you liked what you saw, let me know. If you didn't, let me know. If you have any questions, please ask. Thanks for checking it out.